I'm getting very close to stop. Just a short while, I'll be through. On the mystery that multiplies our oil. It's something I want you to hear. The mystery. I don't know what you have that you desire God to multiply, but I want to show you a method. And I'm taking my text from 2 Kings chapter 4, 1 to 7. 2 Kings chapter 7. 2 Kings chapter 7, 1 to chapter 4, 1 to 7. That's 1 to 7.
Now they cried.
Don't worry about it because of time. This woman, her husband was a prophet. Or we should look at certain woman, wife of the sons of prophet, cried unto Elisha, saying, my servant is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Lord.
And the creditors come to take
unto my two sons to be bondmen. Now, this man was afraid of God, but he was not victorious. That means being afraid of God and being dedicated is not equal to victory. He didn't have knowledge. And then when he died as a servant of God, who was faithful to God, those he was owing want to take two sons in house as bondmen. It is going on now. It happens in the church. It happened in the church that faithful believers are not admirable. I say faithful believers are not what? They're not admirable. They're not admirable. They pray so much and fast, but they are not admirable. They are faithful in their service to God, but they are not admirable. Because they don't know the formula of multiplication. The formula of multiplication didn't involve prayer here. Elisha said to the woman, you people are waiting for help. What do you have? That's the beginning of miracle. How many people know there are certain values that cannot be subjected to competition? Maybe somebody hear what I said. I said somebody doesn't know there are certain that cannot be subjected to competition. Because they are too prodigious to come from two people. Those values are too awesome for two men to replicate it. So if everybody is saying we can produce it, then it's not unique. And if it's not unique, then it opens door for competition. There are men you don't replace because of their resume. So Elisha looked at the woman and said, the beginning of that miracle is not what God will do. The beginning of that miracle is what you have. So he said, I am going to ask God to help you when you tell me what you have. The woman looked at Elisha and said, we have only a small oil in the cruise. He said, then you have to bring it. Because God have to help you from what you have. Not from what God has. And then the woman went and brought it. And he said, the next thing you will need to do is that you should recognize people that should help you in life. I'm not preaching that in details. But I have a book on providing vessel for oil. It's one of my new books. Elisha said to the woman, he said, learn to seek help from people. Learn to seek help. Seeking help from people does not mean you're weak. But there is always something somebody should do for you. He said, go to your neighbor, recognize them, and then ask them for vessels. There are human beings There are some of us that are looking at me here. Since you were born, you have not asked anything from a neighbor. I didn't say God touched your neighbor. God touched your neighbor and he gave you. You went to neighbor. One day, many years ago, a particular woman called me and said, Shepherd, I said, yes. He said, why is it that you people are doing program and you know I like your church and you know that my school has buses? Why can't you ask me to give you some of those buses to carry people during your program? I will give you. So I said, eh? He said, why not? He said, if you ask me to give you my school buses, I will give them to you for 3 days. You use it to transport your convert and all. I said, we have convert. I told her, I said, we have buses. He said, why not? We can add 2 or 3 to you, your own. Then she said, after all, redeemed people ask, they take it from us. And then how much more somebody like you? My eyes opened. But because I'm not used to asking things. So Elisha looked at that woman and said, learn to ask something. Go to your neighbor and get vessel. Tell them they should lend you vessel for 1 month. You return to them. That's where I'm stopping in it. There are other formulas that made that woman rich. Remember that if you look at that story from down, there is no prayer in it. Lock your door, put the oil in the vessels, and they multiply. I just shared only 2 from it. The mystery. The mystery that multiply oil. Recognize that oil, you have to have it. And then number 2, recognize that you might need the help of your neighbor. And then you cannot, it is not possible for you to have everything you need. That does not make you beggarly. Sometimes God arranges for you to go and get something from somebody. Somebody, are you blessed? Somebody, are you blessed? Now, one of the ways to interpret your destiny is concerning everything I have taught you. Now, just to make your robe better. The robe you came with, to improve it. That's what I have done. Interpreting your destiny from your robe. Somebody can change your robe. If you're a woman, the moment you give birth, the capital job of your life is to keep on changing the robe of your children. You know, when they were born, you bought them children's cloth. You bought them children's cloth. You bought napkin. You use the one you choose in changing them. And then as they grow up, you buy a little trouser to them. Or if they are girls, you buy a gown. Now, each of the robe you put on these boys or this girl represent the value